the studio of Gareth Griffith in Mynydd Llanfairpwll. And first question, Gareth, about the project Retake, Reinvent is what work did you choose from the collection in Cardiff and why?
Yeah, well, I chose the organ, because there's a massive organ in the gallery 6, I think. I'm not sure which one it is. So, first of all, there was a kind of structure occasion. The shutters were open, and there was this organ, and I thought that immediately took my attention, and the average time is 10 seconds in front of something, isn't it? And so you walk past lots of stuff, and so I'd taken photographs before I arrived at this, and what's interesting about it was that I had been a number of times before and not noticed the organ, maybe because the casing was shut, and for whatever the reason for doing it, I think of afterwards, I think of the sort of statement after. I think some artists think of the statement first.
They do.
That.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But I can't do it like that. But maybe a bit perverse, really, to choose that in a way, because really, how could I, what am I going to do? So obviously that led to me wanting to have some kind of sound, and also it led me to wanting to know again what lay behind it, and the visit to the factory and so on. And it took a long time. I remember this place in Liverpool when I was living in Liverpool, Henry Willis and son. Really, one of my fellow students actually told me about it, and he said you should go there, but I never did, because his dad had something to do with the place, I think. And I remembered about this place, and so I looked him up and organised a visit, and which was quite recent. And it's the most amazing place, coincidentally, I was my first job was in the police stores there, near there. I went along with Greg Byatt, a filmmaker, and I'd already engaged with Chris Trimble and Buster Parsonson, Buster Parsonson, who'd been making some sound pieces, with a Hammond organ in the sound studio near here, and Chris had been making up some Dada poems and so on. So Greg came along to do some filming, and there's going to be a bit of a film. So that the kind of cooperation bit has been in motion.
I mean, in some ways, like visiting the Willis and Sons factory in Liverpool, it's a similar kind of maybe a way of working.
It was a revelation.
Sort of looking for something.
Yes, looking for something, and it was a total revelation. It was. Well, as I said, these people were amazingly skilled people, and again, I suppose for me, see that's the kind of almost, because I'm not a skilled person, I haven't got the kind of brain to work in that way. Then I'm always impressed with it. But what engaged me was the way that they had adapted certain things or made certain things in order to do certain jobs, or to make certain jobs easier. It made an immediate connection with me because of its structure, and it obviously had been made out of in this kind of extemporized way, I guess, by what they wanted was something to test the pipes. Okay, so they had the machine, as it were, the blower, and they also wanted it to be mobile. So there was this amazing structure. As I said, there's a Dexian frame encasing a box here, which I think that the blower is situated. whatever's happening in the box that sits on top of the frame, I'm not too sure. But on the top here, there's a what they call a wind controller. And this is a totally unique thing. I mean, I think every organ of a certain kind, anyway, has got one of these. Well, in terms of making that machine that I was talking about, it is different because I've got to sort it out. It's got to work. It's not a matter of, say, like for instance, the way, these are just not pieces yet. They could be, they might not be. But so I've got this piece here, and this piece here, and I put that on the end of it, and it seems to have a certain kind, seems to work. Similarly, with this one, a shorter piece, I've done the same thing, and it's about playing around with things until things work for you, and it's like anything. I mean, that's how artists work. But this is, which I've just talked about. This is a piece in itself, okay? I guess that, you know, when Duchamp showed his urinal, the only thing about it was, different about it, was its title. Because it was, you know, armut, as it were. But it was a urinal. I mean, this is a wind controller, or a wind catcher. You know, they've got to search around in the storeroom for bits that, you know, okay. But this one I was told is from St Paul's Cathedral, part of the organ there, but not in the chancery, I think. So it's like a fourth division organ. I guess there must have about half a dozen organs in St Paul's that do certain things. So I just basically put. And it's quite precious wood. It's, I think they said it was Cuban mahogany or something, which is, you can't buy now, or it's illegal to sell or whatever. So I just put that there, and this thing here, you know, and I'm just playing around at the moment. This is the piece that I did from a little. It's called The Gift, from a little thing that Johan gave me, which was these things here were stuck onto that, and when they were stuck onto it, I made a series of paintings, and it was knocking about for a few years before I decided to do something about it. You know, I mean, when I found this pollock stick, this stick that I called pollock stick, and it's just a found object, really, which I've hung from the ceiling. And it's just that it's totally encrusted in paint. At the bottom end here, they've finished off with black paint, but there's some green and so on. It's just a superb, you know, just a lovely thing to look at. And I don't know if this is going to be part of the work, but I dripped some paint down onto the floor, and so that's going to kind of like going to give you an impression of. I looked at some of the colours on here of the paint dripping down onto the floor, so that's going to be underneath it there. And behind it on the wall there is a couple of collages, three-dimensional collages, whatever, reliefs, and those are part of a series I did on shelter, where I worked with lots of other artists who made these little shelters, in an exhibition I had in Gallery Carnarvon and in the Mostyn. And so, you know, this one here I called Shelter for Diebenkorn. And this one here I've called Shelter for Matisse. Because, you know, there's something Diebenkornish about that, and from Matisse, like, about that. And you were asking me about how artists, you know, how they resonate with you, and, you know, if you look at other artists' work. You do it all the time, of course. But it's interesting to note that Diebenkorn absolutely worshipped Matisse, and he was always constantly looking at Matisse. And it's, you know, from looking at his work, you can see the real connection in both his figurative and his non-figurative work. Because Diebenkorn is one of those artists that's really interesting, who kind of dipped in and out of figuration and abstraction. I mean, there's no such thing as abstraction, really. I mean, abstraction is just.
I agree.
Absolutely, it's just a term. It's making, whether you're a figurative painter or an abstract painter, whatever that may be, it's just a term, and it's making things work. Piece here, which is, you know, painting of that behind it, and so it's kind of, in a strange kind of way, I guess I'm acknowledging the source, as it were, in making a painting, a sculpture, and then a painting of it. Well, it's a collage, this one, and it's part of the Conrad Witz paint series I did. But it's got a huge presence and a tension. There's this amazing amount of yellow. It's a deeply symbolic painting because yellow denotes wisdom in the Jewish religion. And there's this staff here that this figure is holding, and you can see the tablets here, that is broken. And there's the window on the light, the only source of light, as it were, here. The staff is broken, and in order to accommodate the broken staff, there's a shape here that looks like as if it's been a patch of the blue sky has been added. But I guess it might be an open doorway beyond, or a part of a building beyond. I don't know. But the whole painting is deeply abstract, and there's a massive kind of presence anyway to it, as I said. Inside these brick mold boxes that I found, there were these sculptures, and they looked okay in there. And this one is, I've called Walking Conrad, as if he's kind of walking away. Both of them are made from bits of plastic and so on. I decided to this woman is striding along now. You know, so she looks as if her robe is flowing and so on. I mean, in the 19th century, you know, you couldn't access these images. Now we carry them around in our pockets on our iPhones or whatever. You can, you know. So I mean, this piece here, down here, you know, I'm acknowledging Miro, but I didn't make it with Miro in mind, you know. Similar. When I was at college, I did embark on making things, but it was the course then was kind of pretty hamstrung by having to pass an exam, almost like an A level or something. At the end, you know, you sent all your work off to some place in London and that kind of thing. About 15 years ago, thereabouts, I sort of refound myself in terms of, you know, making constructions and so on. So that began to creep in, and it's becoming more and more. You know?
You always had a studio during that time, and
yeah.
Is the studio very important for your kind of work, or can you work anywhere, or what does the studio mean for you?
Well, I mean, I think it was Albert who said, you know, you should be able to work anywhere. You know, you can work in the toilet if you're there, you know. But it's something, yeah, you've got to have a place to work, haven't you? And I mean, I used to have a caravan I used to work in, I stripped it, all the stuff out, emptied it of its guts, as it were, and used the caravan in the field back here. And it was very much, it's been built by my sons. The two eldest sons, our youngest son Morgan was in London at the time. So it's a labour of love, and it's a fantastic space, and it's what it gives me is the ability to move about and move from one thing to the other. You know, I mean, I could be doing some sculpture stuff here, maybe some painting down there, and to move around, and you know. It was Mondrian said, didn't he, about his studio? I mean, his studio was, people used to just to go and see his studio.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, his studio was his work manifest, and he did say that it's that you should have, your studio should reflect your work. It's no use putting stuff there. So there was, I had to do something about it. Yeah.
Do you see a studio as a sanctuary?
As a sanctuary, yeah. Sometimes, yeah. I do, particularly in weather, when the weather's bad. As a sanctuary, I mean, yeah. It means a lot to me because of its history, you know, and who made it and so on.
Do you care, Gareth, do you care where your work goes when it leaves the studio?
Well, yes, I do. I care about it, but I don't give it much thought, you know. Sometimes I do. Sometimes there are pieces of work that I'd like to see again, which I never will, that have been sold, and I'd hardly ever sell anything. I mean, day before yesterday, I sold a piece, and that was the first time in 2 years, to somebody that really likes it and has engaged with it. So that's good. That's a good feeling.
What do you like about working in North Wales?
It's where I live. I mean, of course, it's you know, the fact that I guess you're asking me about am I a Welsh artist or something. I know some of my fellow artists are English who happen to live here. So. But the fact is that if you live in a place, it reflects in your work. There's absolutely no denying that at all, and why should you? Yeah, I do. It's a beautiful place, isn't it? You know, but sometimes I hanker about being back in Liverpool. There was such a buzz living there, you know, and I did a lot of work there and so on. Well, you see, I'm not a landscape painter in that sense, you know. You know, Peter Prendergast, he painted, you know, it was the essence of his work, you know. It was the spirit of the place he was totally, you know. So in terms of working in North Wales, yeah, it's affected my work a lot, you know. But and for a while, I thought that you almost there was an obligation to be engaged with the landscape in that way. You know, I did lots of paintings and drawings and so on. But I think art is a process of finding out, isn't it? You know, and I'm kind of finding out more about myself, really. Although I'm in my seventh decade, as it were, my mid-70s now, and you know, it's a process of finding out.
Great. Okay, well, thank you, Gareth, for letting us into your studio.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah,
it's been really good. Great.
You know, I just don't understand people who don't. You know, any mark you make, your kids' works. I saw him. You know, when the art. I don't know why I've started talking about this really, but I mean, it meant a hell of a lot to him. Yeah, you know, this painting, you know, and he cried, because not of course he was thinking about his mum, yeah, but because the image was important to him, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. And
This was when you were teaching in Liverpool.
in the primary school
The primary
in
school in
Liverpool,
Liverpool,
yeah, on the outskirts of Liverpool.
Right.
So I've kept it all these years,
Gosh.
and it's such a potent image, you know. It's a circus, in fact. There's an elephant here, I think, and guys on the trapeze. And I think David, Ian was disappointed that David had painted this. They'd stuck these bits of card, you see, and it painted this figure in on it that paint had run a bit, but in fact it looks fantastic, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I was
It's,
looking at it
it's a
earlier.
beautiful painting,
Yeah, it
isn't
caught
it?
my eye earlier.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.